Okay, here's a video for the second page of 18.4, Day 2 worksheet. Make sure on the front side of the worksheet, most of you did okay, but X and Y intercepts are ordered pairs. So you want to make sure that you write them in ordered pairs. Like if the X-intercept is 7, then the ordered pair is 7, 0. If you don't write them in ordered pairs on the final, they do take quite a few points off for that. So you don't want to lose that. I'm going to go over number 7 on the back sheet. So it says a regular garden measures 12 meters by 16 meters, and they're having a pathway installed around it. So let me put a pathway around it. And it says the total area is increasing the total area to 285. So they're saying that the area is going to be 285. Meters squared. What will be the width and the length? And then it gives you a hint to draw it. So it tells you that it's 12 by 6, the original one, or 12 by 16. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. What you don't know is you don't know the distance from here to here. So we're going to call that X. That same distance is from here to here. Okay? So now if I think about the length of this side right here, the length of that side will be 12 plus 2x, because it's 12 right here and then x and then x. Okay, so if I go the other way and I talk, so that's the width of the new one. If I talk about the length of the new one right here, then the original was 16 in blue, but the distance from here to here is x, and the distance from here to here is x. So it's going to be 16 plus x plus x. So this side is 16 plus 2x. So I know that area is length times width. So I know the new area is supposed to be 285, and I know that that's made from taking one of the widths, which was 16 plus 2x, times the other width, which was 12 plus 2x. So then I can go ahead and use FOIL and do all that, and I'm going to get 285, and you could do that on your own, but I'll get 285 equals 192 plus 56x plus 4x squared. So now, because this is a quadratic, I know it's a quadratic because it has that exponent right there of a 2. So because it's a quadratic, I want to set it equal to 0. So I want to take this 285, I don't know why I just went in the highlighter. I want to take this 285 and move it to the other side. Sorry, this is getting sloppy. Let me go to the next screen. So if I do that, I'm going to get 0 equals negative 93 plus 56x plus 4x squared. So in other words, that's, you're used to seeing it in descending order. So that's 4x squared plus 56x minus 93. So if you want to know what x is, you can either factor that or you can use a quadratic equation. I would use a quadratic equation because the 4 makes it tough. The leading coefficient is not 1. So if you use the quadratic equation, the 56 is b, so negative 56. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. And if you solve that, you're eventually going to get 1.5 in one instance and negative 15.5 in the other. Well, a distance can't be negative, so it has to be 1.5. So if x is 1.5, let's go back to the picture. So the picture, we decided this side was 16 plus 2x. So if you put 1.5 in there, if you have 16 plus 2 times 1.5, you're going to get 19 for one, and the other you're going to get 15 if you solve this side. So your new dimensions are 15 feet by 19 feet. So that's how you do number 7. That came from the exam bank, so if you're struggling with it, walk through it on the video, walk through it on paper, then wait a while and see if you can do it cold turkey on your own. Number 8 said the hypotenuse of a right triangle is 13 feet. So I'm going to draw a right triangle. The hypotenuse is always the longest side, the side that's across the 90 degree. So they're saying this is 13 feet. They said if one leg is 2 more than twice the other, so if one leg is x, the other one has to be 2 more than twice it. So twice x plus 2. And they said find the length of each leg. So if it's a right triangle, I know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I know that a and b are the two legs that make the 90 degree. So I have 2x plus 2 squared plus x squared equals 13 squared. So this part right here I'm going to have to FOIL. And you can look on the answer key to see all the steps in FOIL. But if I FOILed that, I would get 5x squared, and I FOILed it and simplified it. I get 5x squared plus 8x plus 4 equals 169. Now again, if you don't know where I'm getting 5x squared plus 8x squared, you can go and download the answer key and then look at the step in between. Again, I have a quadratic. I know it's a quadratic because of the 2. So I know I have to set it equal to 0. So I take the 169 over. I set it equal to 0. And I get 5x squared plus 8x minus 165. You can either try to factor that or use a quadratic equation. Quadratic equation is going to be easier. You can look on the answer key for all the steps of the quadratic equation, but what you come out with is 5 as one answer, and the other answer is negative 6.4. Well, again, if x is the length of one of the sides, it can't be negative. So that means x has to be equal to 5. If x is equal to 5, then one of the sides is 5. And the other side must be 5 times 2 plus 2. So it must be 12. So 5 and 12. On number 9, you're finding two positive consecutive integers, x and x plus 2, so that the product, so product indicates that they're multiplied together, because product means an answer to a multiplication problem. The product is 14 more than their sum. So if I take them and I add them together, and I don't really need these parentheses, but I'm putting them there so you can see that I added those two together, plus 16, those should be equal to each other. So you can use distributive property here. You get x squared plus 2x. Over here I'm going to combine like terms. So I have two x's, so that's 2x. I have a 2 and a 16, so that's plus 18. Again, I have a quadratic. I know I have a quadratic because there's an exponent of 2, so I'm going to have to push everything over to one side and set it equal to 0. This ends up being x squared equals 18. Did I screw up somewhere? Oops, I messed up. This story says 14 right here. So that makes that 16 and that 16. There we go. Take the 16 over. I get x squared minus 16. Let me write it on the next one. equals 0. So you can either use you can factor it and factor it to x minus 4 and x plus 4 and solve each of those, and you get the answer of negative 4 and positive 4, and you know it can't be negative 4 because it's a distance, so then you know it's 4. Or you can use the square root property. You can move the 16 over, isolate the exponent of 2, take the square root of it, and you'll get x equals positive and negative 4, which you know it can't be negative 4, so you'd know it's x equals 4. Or you can use the quadratic equation, and for b it would be 0 because it doesn't have that middle term. So there are several different ways you can go ahead and solve it. It did say they are consecutive, so they're consecutive even. So consecutive means counting order. So if the first one's 4, the next one has to be 6 because that's the next even number. So the answers were 4 and 6. And then the last one talks about a ball and getting kicked. The quadratic h equals negative 16 t squared plus 14t plus 2 models that, and where h is the feet in height above the ground and t is the time. So if you were to graph something like that, it's going to look like this, right? Because it's, you know that the a is negative, so you know it's a frown, it's upside down. Okay, so it says, the first one says, find the time it takes a ball to reach the maximum height. On a quadratic actually models the path of how a ball will be kicked. And so where would you find height? You'd find the height of the ball up here at the top, at the vertex. So A is asking you about the vertex. The vertex is found by using the formula x equals negative b over 2a. That should give you the x value. And if you do all that, and you can look on the answer key to see all the steps in between. But if you plug that in, you'll get 7 over 16. That means that the ball reached its height in 7/16 of a second. Then B asked for the maximum height. So the reason I know that this x is the time is because x is the x-axis, and that's time. The y-axis would be your height. And so on B, they ask you about how high is the ball. So all you have to do is take your x and plug it back into the equation, or your t, I guess it's called a t in this equation, but plug it back in. So you can go h equals negative 16 times 7/16 squared plus 14 times 7/16 plus 2. And that'll give you the height, and it's about 5. Ends up being a little bit more, it's like 5.06. And then the last one asks you, how long did it take to reach the ground? Well, the ground would be right here, so you're looking for the root. So then you use your quadratic equation to solve. Hopefully this helps you on that back side.